in.
Yeah. You going to do that after the first disclaimer?
Welcome to the Grappling With podcast. Dr. Chris Hardy and William Walker will take a deep dive into topics covering wellness and prevention, performance, recovery, and injury management. Our mission is to provide the latest science-based information to help you get the most out of your grappling journey, both on and off the mats, and help you overcome any challenges you may be grappling with. Dr. Hardy is a licensed physician and BJJ practitioner, but the contents of the podcast are meant for educational purposes only. Should not be taken as medical advice. Please seek out personalized care from your own medical provider prior to implementing any medical treatment or intervention.
Hello, all. I'm back in the saddle again.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. That Russian.
Well, no, he did fine.
No.
You guys left, you guys left me hanging. I was like, yeah, son, you don't know how to swim? We're just going to kick you into the deep end of the pool and hope you do
where
well.
they teach toddlers how to like float and they just yeet them into the pool?
Or an old dude that doesn't, you just put him right in there and say, well, I hope you do well.
Hopefully he's got some fat on him so he floats.
So thanks for that. I'm glad you're back.
You look great.
No, thanks.
I'm happy actually too
That what?
that you both are sitting up there. I don't know. It's just nice seeing the old crew.
The whole crew.
Yeah.
It was a damn shame. Not just a shame. It was a damn shame that we had to deport him. But I think
You mean Nikita?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think his family will miss him because they stayed. But I do think his family back at home in the USSR will absolutely be happy to see him again.
The former Soviet Union,
I was
you
going
mean?
to say that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Same. So
Civics with Bill.
right. I love Hondas. So
What?
Actually, that's a great segue into we have a disclaimer that you just heard, and we're going to add to it, which is I was put in timeout, and I am back. And our disclaimer, second disclaimer, because Chris dominates the first one. The second one is anything that comes out of this face or that face, for that matter,
Or this face.
and even that face over there,
This one over here.
this one right here, it only is our opinion. It does not reflect people that we work for, our gym, our training partners, anything like that.
Friends,
even
family.
friends. My mother texted me a couple times and said, "Hey, I want to know more about you taking my car in
She
middle
did.
school."
She did.
And I just gulped. Like,
Whoops.
I'm at high school.
So what you're saying is we say stupid shit sometimes.
It trickles out of my teeth a little bit. It trickles out. Remember in Ace Ventura when he's got the asparagus hanging?
Very much.
That is shit. And I am Ace Ventura.
Okay.
So sometimes I say craziness. Sometimes I say silliness. It does not reflect on anybody else but me.
Okay.
Cancel me.
Let's not cancel you.
Don't cancel me. I got 2 dogs to feed.
Well, we'll put that together in some kind of concise little thing to add to her because you're feeling left out with the disclaimer. So
A little bit. It feels
Okay.
like you're big timing me a little bit.
yeah, it was.
I mean, if you want, you could like do the voice for that disclaimer.
I'll do it.
And we can put the other section of the intro music, the one with the guitar
If
solo.
that fits, though. I mean, imagine you're changing the music.
No, it's the same song. It's just a different part of it.
Right, but it does sound like a different song.
Oh my God.
Then we have a 6-minute disclaimer.
Feels very dramatic.
We'll play with it.
Okay.
You're
Yeah,
dramatic.
at any rate.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what she said.
welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
So we have 2 topics I want to bring up. Mm-hmm. I got to clear my throat too. Hold on.
Go for it. Oh, gosh.
Oh my God.
Stop smoking.
Can you imagine if I did smoke?
I mean, I know it's a secret, but and we're kind of letting it out to the
my
open
God.
on the podcast.
If I ever, even if I smell, I go in like an asthma attack if I smell smoke. So,
Yeah.
So anyway, I had 2 white belts ask me 2 different questions, and I thought they've been asked before, and I've heard them in various places, but I thought it'd be good. The first one, especially since we just finished ADCC, which is, the preeminent Nogi grappling tournament in the world. I I had someone that's fairly new to jiu-jitsu ask, hey, what's the deal with no-gi, and should I be doing it, and what are the advantages of doing that over gi?
Mm.
And I know a lot of people have talked about that. You've heard people talk in the past about, the no-gi guys should train gi because it'll make their game better, and then some people are like, oh, that's a bunch of nonsense. And so I'd like to kind of talk about that subject in general.
Sure. This will be another subject that is purely my opinion.
Well, mine too.
I assume.
Well, especially since I don't get to train no-gi as much solely due to my schedule, but I really like it when I do. So, and I do have some thoughts on that my own personal experiences, but I definitely, we'll see what you have to say first.
Okay. So what's the first part of that question?
Basically, they're new and they're just being exposed to this world of no-gi, especially when the ADCC was just on. They're like, wow. Okay.
So like a fire hose.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, well, should I, what's the difference and should I be doing this?
Yeah. Okay. Should you be doing no-gi? I think it's going to depend on your goals, but if you can manage it with your schedule, because maybe you're a once a week or maybe you're 2 or 3 times, you're not training a ton, but like average. If you can fit a no-gi day in there once a week, I think that's great. If at least once a month, I think you would, in my opinion, you would benefit from it, at least doing once a month. It is tremendously valuable, in my opinion. And I'm not going to say one is more valuable than the other necessarily, because I think I'm one of those people that, because there's the opinion that a sport gi jiu-jitsu grappler, if they were put in a self-defense situation, they would poop the bed, even if they were, let's say, a purple belt. I think that's a bunch of malarkey.
So whether some people have said that,
yes,
and you said that's a bunch of nonsense.
I think that's silly. I think that especially they specifically will say a competitor that is a purple belt in, let's say, IBJJF, that has very specific rules, and it's not no holds bar grappling. That they are so restricted into their rule set that they could not effectively defend themselves in a self-defense situation. And I would say that is someone that's never grappled with even a hobbyist purple belt, most likely.
I would agree with you.
Heck, I would say a high school wrestler can be effective in self-defense situations. Actually, there's a viral video of a kid that looks like he's an 8th grader defending himself against a much bigger kid. And I don't know if you've seen that, but he takes the kid down, goes to side control. The kid on bottom has him in like a headlock guillotine kind of deal.
On the wrong side.
Well, the grappler jumps over to the right side.
Exactly.
And the kid just holds on to it for dear life. And the kid gets out and just dominates the guy. I don't even think he punches him. Just dominates him,
Right.
Anyway, I don't think that. I think that kid was probably more of a jiu-jitsu kid, but it's neither here or there. He's a grappler.
I've never understood that argument either, because if you look at the IBJJ rule set, it is a hierarchy of position. And it's that way you get more points for more dominant positions, right? And those are the most combat effective positions, right? So I just don't understand.
Let alone a competitor, which is going to have the mental advantage over, let's say, a hobbyist, most likely, because they're going to be able to tap into intensity and they got that dog in them. And, which goes a long ways, as we know, with just spazzy white belts that come in and how intense a role can be just because they're able to channel intensity.
Well, and that serves your point. A new aggressive white belt is as close to a self-defense situation as you're probably going to get, without being punched. But but it is very much protect yourself and kind of get into that hierarchy of position, right?
Yeah.
It really
Which is why
control the whole 9 yards, right?
Which is why when a new white belt comes in and I roll with them, I do not go easy on them. Now, if they are, we've talked about the spectrum of new grappler, spazzy, very aggressive, intense, is over here. And then we have just a little more docile, his struggles to channel intensity or even strength and stuff like that over here. I started over here.
Right.
You want to find that balance if you're on the ends there. If they're over here, I'm definitely easing back. But these guys, which is I would say 75%.
When you say these guys, for people listening, you mean the kind
spazzy,
of aggressive,
intense, aggressive guy. That's like 75% of the new people.
Yeah.
Especially new males.
Right. Oh, for sure.
And I'm going to try as hard as they are in my brain, and then I'm going to clinch them and stuff like that. Now, because I like to think of it as a self-defense situation, I am doing it and not playing lapel guard. I'm not playing some sort of squirrely inversions, not even really reverse de la Hiva or anything like that. I'm going to stretch them out. I'm going to jackknife them. I'm going to put them in the triangle of death, which is where their hips are back, their hands are to the mat. You know, they're basically making a triangle.
Their posture is completely broken down.
Yeah. And I'm being very intentional with everything with a lot of effort.
And by the way, for new white belts coming in, don't be offended. I was very tense, and and you said you were on the other.
I was on the opposite, but
the other. So we all kind of go through it to an extent where we're not trying to be derogatory towards you guys. That's just what
you're
it
being
is.
Put in a fight or flight situation,
and you've never done it before.
Yeah, and if anything, you're starting. I would rather start on the aggressive side personally. Now that's just me, but because I think it's easier to taper back than to ramp up.
I see what you're saying.
Because that intensity, if you naturally can get to that intensity level, but you learn throttle control, you can always tap that intensity.
Throttle control and body control.
And body,
the breathing, all that stuff, right? Yeah.
And then you can go into a competition or a scenario where it's like, no, that's in there. And it's easily tappable. You got to ramp back, actually.
Yeah, I like it. A couple of people off the top of my head, I can think the same way and I agree with you on that.
And saying spazzy and stuff like that, there's almost like another level. So there's the 75% of dudes that come in that start and they're kind of spazzy. They're kind of like over aggressive, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine. There is a little sliver
of that section,
which I because you just said we're not trying to be offensive.
Yeah.
There is a sliver that I am trying to be offensive towards.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Which is, I'd have to think about the last person that came in that was like this. So it's a small sliver, but it's people that are dangerous.
I see what you're saying.
Yes, they're spazzy, but they are dangerously spazzy.
Right. Coming in.
They're going to hurt somebody.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? They need to learn control immediately. They're So I just want to throw out that there is that person that exists out there.
Yeah.
So the first part of the question was, should they?
Should they do Nogi?
Yeah.
And that kind of, basically, and you were just, that whole conversation started because you were saying the argument, saying that a gi jiu-jitsu person isn't good at, you couldn't do a good self-defense situation. Yeah, and we just use that conversation to say, well, no, I think we do.
Yeah.
But, so I agree too. Every time I've done and had the opportunity due to my schedule, because I like to train with my wife too, and we're both physicians, and it's to line up those nights, or it's tough. But when I do, I really enjoy Nogi. It's a completely different. The control is different. The whole game is different, and so I agree with you. As much as you can, if you have the opportunity to get it in once a week, or I agree, once a month even, is really helpful. So, I'm a big fan too.
And in my opinion, gi, I'm not saying gi or no gi, one is more important than the other. I think mat time is going to be the ultimate, whether it's self-defense or just getting better. It's just going to be showing up.
Right.
But I will say, if we want to get into the weeds a little bit.
Yeah, I do.
I think gi jiu-jitsu is more transferable Nogi jiu-jitsu is more transferable to gi than gi is to no-gi.
Mm-hmm.
I also think no-gi is more applicable. There's more things that are applicable in a self-defense scenario than gi jiu-jitsu. This comes from a guy that when he goes to no-gi, people are like, why are you here? Right? So I'm more of a gi person than a no-gi person. Mm-hmm. Although I started with no-gi in the very, very beginning of my fandom of jiu-jitsu. I was into like 10th Planet, and I watched Pride live in 2005 and
awesome,
and UFC and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's why when Lenny, the Pride announcer, I almost cried. Like
when you heard him.
Heard him?
When you heard him? Heard her. It's a her?
It is a her.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Dude, that shows you what I know.
You're a dead naming piece of shit.
No, I'm just an old dude that, I don't know what's going on. I have no idea.
A lot of people thought
everyone thinks it's a guy. Everyone does.
That's crazy.
And their name's Lenny. I mean, Lenny Hart.
Fair enough. Okay. See what I learned. Carrie will be shocked too.
No, she knows.
Oh, okay.
So
okay, go ahead.
Anyways, so they had the drums and everything, the Pride like style drums. I'm telling you, I was getting wispy, bro. It was like you like dream of being able to like be, unless obviously the crowd was like 50-50. Some people hated her
because they didn't know who she was. They didn't. Very new to
but I think
I think.
Well, there's even people that aren't new to jiu-jitsu that hated her.
That's true.
And they just it's a cup of tea. You either like it sweetened or not.
Got it.
And I'm a sweet kind of guy. I like it sweetened. She made it sweet. So, anyways, I think the grips in no-gi are immediately transferable to a self-defense situation. And then also the grips in no-gi you can use in the gi, in a gi scenario, in a gi jiu-jitsu match. Same with the submissions. More no-gi submissions transfer into gi than gi submissions into no-gi. Keenan Cornelius also did a little, almost like a study. I don't know if you've ever watched this.
No.
It's pretty cool. Where they wore street clothes, like baggy, like sweatshirts and hoodies and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, we're going to just destroy these clothes. And they grappled him and some of his black belts. They all did it. And they noticed that no-gi grips are still more effective. Not that like a sleeve grip or collar grips around with a hoodie and stuff that was unattainable or didn't work at all. It's just you almost naturally go to underhooks and overhooks and double wrist control and like tricep control with a wrist, 2-on-1s and stuff like that. You almost naturally go to that immediately. So another reason why, yes, you should do no-gi, especially if your goals have any sort of importance to self-defense. Now, if you just show up, you're going to get self-defense, unless you're at a school that, I'm not saying has to teach self-defense, but like maybe they don't spar or something like that.
Oh, I see.
That's a difficult scenario to really prepare yourself for that fight or flight situation if you're not sparring at all.
Yeah. I've noticed something similar. The few times I am able to do no-gi, and sometimes, you and I will, even at gi class, we'll just take the top off and
I'll take my shirt off right now.
No, I won't.
Yeah, yes, he would. Please don't.
I would not.
Don't tempt him.
This chest hasn't seen the daylight outside of our bedroom.
Nor any muscular development in a long time.
You son of a... Sorry. I'm going to call my doctor about that.
The one that's married to me. Oh, my God.
Need to juice it up a little bit more.
Oh, my goodness. So I've noticed that it translated to my gi game as far as control.
Because of why?
Because I didn't have the grips. And I thought back around, I've heard, like Eddie Bravo talk about Jean-Jacques Machado's game, how well his gi game translated in no-gi due to didn't really have a fully formed hand.
He was just used to not having
Exactly.
Yeah, he has essentially two fingers
On that one hand.
On one hand.
Yeah. And so I definitely agree. And this is just my opinion, but I do not find that training gi more translates into the no gi game.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my personal opinion. I know I've heard that argument before that people are like, oh, you should go train, for the MMA fighters, you should go train gi.
It's the historical opinion, I think, for sure.
Is that what it is?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was, Gordon's talked about it in length. How that was the mindset previously to get your no-gi games sharp, do the gi, to get your MMA jiu-jitsu game sharp, do stuff in the gi.
That didn't make sense to me.
And it's like one of those things where I could see a benefit, but once again, I think the biggest thing is going to be it's going to be mat time, intentional mat time.
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting thing because some of the dedicated no-gi specialists that are out there have done well, right? We have our Nicky Rods, our Craig Joneses, our Gordon Ryans, and stuff like that. These are PJ Barch. These are dedicated no-gi specialists doing well in the no-gi tournament scene.
Mm-hmm.
But it is also interesting that there's still guys that split time at the very, very top.
Mm-hmm.
Cade Rutolo, he just won
the
biggest no-gi ADCC tournament. Who was he going against in the finals? Mika Gaval. Splits time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now maybe there's a timeline there that it's going to take longer. We're just not at the point where there's enough no-gi specialists, and
I see.
Maybe that's a part of it. But I do find it pretty interesting that there's still these guys that split time, at the top in some of these divisions. If you take Gordon out, right, then who's the no-gi specialist that's dominating, right, in a specific division? You could say maybe Craig. He's doing extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
But he got his pooper pushed in by Kynan.
Right.
And he splits time. He also is on my TRT stack, I think.
Allegedly?
Well, that dude's shoulders were lumpy, bro.
You saw him in person, so you would know.
I don't think we did. Like, we saw him from a distance.
Okay.
We didn't get up close. If I got up close, I would have hung off those traps like cliffhanger. Doing crazy. Anyways.
Yeah, no, it's
an interesting conversation.
It is very interesting, and I love gi jiu-jitsu. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, there's so many cool things.
I find it to be more like
creative.
Exactly.
Creative, yeah.
I know I said this to how many people, but I find gi jiu-jitsu it's almost like you're a painter and you have more paintbrushes
totally.
to use to make a beautiful painting.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that no-gi is not beautiful and it's not creative. It's just my personal preference.
Well, and if someone wanted to, like if they were taking some no-gi classes and they wanted to practice some of those no-gi grips, you can still do that in gi.
Totally.
You don't have to go for the collar
probably
sleeve.
A benefit if in the gi you tell yourself, like there's a drill that I'm actually going to introduce next week in the day class, and I'm going to use it as a warm up, and that's where the bottom person starts in a supine, and which is just imagine your knees are to your chest, your elbows are in, and you're curled up, laying on your back. Okay, this is like a supine guard. The top person has to pass their guard. They can do whatever they want. Bottom person cannot use their hands as gripping mechanisms. Framing is fine.
Okay.
But they cannot grab material.
Interesting.
Okay. Mm-hmm. They cannot C-grip around a wrist or an ankle or anything like that. Okay. They have to essentially be little fists, right? Some people put tennis balls in their hands. This is very common. So you're going to be required to use like overhooks and underhooks and stuff like that. You're not going to be able to rely on it. I think that's going to be that's a benefit to do. You can do that just with rolling and just tell yourself to grab onto something. So that's going to be part of our warm up is doing this kind of movement. And then we'll introduce, okay, you can have one grip at a time.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I think it's an absolute, like Olivia's referring to it. It can be a benefit to just practice on your own. If you can't make it to a Nogi class, just try doing it.
Yeah, it's very cool. Obviously I like them both, but I'd like to be able to do. And Nogi tends to be a bit more scrambly.
For sure. I mean, it's a little bit more speed oriented. Your athleticism gets you a little bit farther. You can advance a little faster if you are the athletic type or in good physical shape. You can maybe advance a bit faster and go a little further in the beginning. I think it starts to get nullified a little bit as more technique comes into play.
Right.
But not that it's not a total benefit, for sure.
Yeah, cool. I saw, there's an interesting thing since someone just kind of came up to me and asked me my opinion on that.
Yeah, you kick them out of the gym?
No.
No? Oh. I just, usually when white belts ask you something without you prompting them, you get a little flustered and, get out of my face.
Get off my yard. Nah, dude.
Bingo was his name-o.
Dude, that is completely not true, Bill.
Well, we'll see about that.
Read the disclaimer again.
Sorry, Dr. Chris.
That's right. You must call me that.
Gosh, I can't wait to call you Dr. Professor Chris.
Well, you're going to have to be waiting a while.
It doesn't roll off the tongue. But
no, it's going to be a long wait, so don't worry about it.
Professor Dr. Chris?
I don't even care. You need to stop it right now.
PD Chris? DP? That could mean a couple things.
It could mean a lot of stuff.
And all apply to you.
They probably do. So don't worry about that. You're going to have a long time to wait.
Don't you do that.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
On a different note, last week, one of our white belts, and I love these questions because I haven't really thought about them in a while, asked, here's the scenario. They already had a roll set up with one of their friends.
Okay.
I know the smoke coming out of my ears trying to think and remember, right?
Well, it was more so you were. It sounded like you're setting up a joke.
No.
Yeah.
This actually happened.
Okay.
They had already set up like, hey, you want to roll next? One of their buddies, another white belt. And then about, right before the roll was going to start, one of the black belts came over to one of them and said, hey, you want to roll? And they felt obligated to be like, didn't want to say, oh, I'd already set up this. I was already planning on rolling with this guy here. And they felt like they had to do the roll with the black belt. Nothing that black belt, nothing that anybody
there was
said.
An internal anxiety that happened.
They just didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't know, hey, am I breaching etiquette if I didn't type of thing? And
what'd they do?
What did they do?
Yeah, did they end up rolling with the black belt or their friend?
I didn't.
You didn't ask?
Yeah, and I'm not, it doesn't matter.
Matters to me.
Well, what matters, and what's interesting is I haven't thought about it because, every single black belt at our gym, I can say, I'm not speaking for them, but I know them pretty well. And I don't think any of them would have been offended if they're like, oh, no, hey, I'd already set up. Yeah, at all. Right. And so basically that's what I said. I'm like, I
will put a caveat on that.
Right. And I'm going to.
Sabrina.
To leave her alone.
Our little troll.
She trolls me all the time. I don't know why I felt like I needed to defend her too. You're right, Bill.
Thank you.
She trolls me constantly. No, but they're all very, very cool about that, and wouldn't even. I don't think any of them would have think, "Oh, how dare you?" type of thing at all. I think that'd be the last thing on their mind. But you would have to know the culture of the gym you're at.
And taking into account they are a white belt, they obviously know of some etiquette stuff. They've been on YouTube a little bit, and I don't think we've talked about that.
No, and this is what I also said. I'm like, well, there are usually more white belts than there are black belts at any one time in a class. And if you have a chance to roll, if a black belt comes and asks you to roll, it's a pretty good opportunity for you. And it might be a good time to say, hey, tell your buddy, hey, can I get you next? Sorry, but, and take that opportunity because you could probably learn a lot too. that. Not just, not like, oh gosh, I have to fall in line with the hierarchy here, but hey, that's a really good opportunity. And the fact that once someone's coming up and taking interest in you and wants to roll, it's cool, right? So that's what I said, and that's what I usually would do too.
Right.
But I think, I could see maybe in other circumstances and other different personalities that might be a problem if you did. I don't know though. Not at our gym for sure, but I'm just.
So most likely Andrew asked that black belt to roll with that white belt because they were up for a promotion. And that guy just rejected that black belt, so he will not get a promotion.
Oh my God, dude.
You're such a butt.
Here's again, guys, the disclaimer Bill gave. Oh my God. That didn't happen.
I wish I could hold that laugh a little bit more just so it puckered him up a little bit, like, oh no. But I'm just joking. That definitely did not happen. So there is some people that think if a black belt asks you to roll, you should roll with them. That is a thing that you could find on YouTube, and
you should never reject a roll from a black belt.
You should never reject a roll from a black belt or even an upper belt, some people say. This is a thing that's out there. Especially some more traditional style gyms.
Right.
At our gym, Cascade Jiu-Jitsu in Everett, Washington, everettbjj.com, we are like a hybrid, a little bit of traditional. We still maintain some, I would say, old school stuff, but we also have a good culture and vibe that is almost like a new age. I want to say American Jiu-Jitsu. That's just kind of like a silly term. Almost like an athletic room, a wrestling room, or something like that. We have a nice mix of, the traditional and more progressive modern day kind of gym vibes. And I think that's, if you can land at a gym that is rides that line, it's going to be great. Because, the traditional part, you're going to get some of the discipline aspects that are going to help you with that, and especially if maybe you struggle with that. But if someone was looking on YouTube and looking up gym etiquette and stuff like that, I've ran into those videos. I've seen them.
I think that's why it was asked.
Probably.
Yeah.
At our gym, though, I
agree. But at the same time, and it's me as a personal thing, it might be due to my military background, the generation I'm from. I don't know. But I typically do defer to, if a black belt asks me to roll, I will say absolutely. And like there's been times when I know I was going to roll with my wife Carrie, who's also another brown belt, and we were both not even, and someone didn't know that, and they're like, hey, do you want to roll? And I'm like, and Carrie even says, yep, you go roll with them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because that's just my personal thing.
Yeah.
Because first of all, I appreciate the invitation.
Sure.
Right.
So it is also something you could read or listen to that you shouldn't ask. You should not ask.
Oh, the converse of this.
Yes. A black belt to roll. Our gym is not like that.
No.
Our black belts would be probably pissed if you never asked them to roll.
Yeah, totally.
They want to roll.
Absolutely.
Because we don't have lazy black belts. Because those do exist.
Yeah,
black belts that do never roll or spar. We do not have that.
No.
All of our spar.
Yeah, they do.
Some of them, that's all they want to do.
Which is great.
Yeah, they just want to
awesome.
Get after it. So with that, we don't abide by those at our personal gym.
Yeah.
Now, if I were to go visit a gym, I do kind of fall in line with some of those as a precaution because I don't want to offend anybody.
Absolutely.
Typically, I will do a little bit of research also if I go to drop in someplace. I look to see, do they only have white gis or only blue gis or something like that? Because then you can kind of start to understand how traditional they are, how strict they are. And then just what the tone is on some of their maybe Instagram posts and stuff like that.
You can kind of observe too.
A little bit, yeah. And then when you're there, you can exactly kind of observe it.
Yeah. Don't you think erring on the side of respect is usually, if you're going to make an error, it's
and
always
which I was
good. Yeah.
getting to is I do the same as you.
Yeah.
If I have someone that I'm going to roll with, I typically, if a black belt asks, I will be like, I actually got that. Now, I will also say when I'm visiting a gym, absolutely, I'm going to roll with the black belt, even if I got someone picked out. Even if I went someplace, example, if I went with Jake to Sleeper, which is a friendly gym that sometimes we drop into for open mat. If one of the visiting black belts that doesn't even go to Sleeper, doesn't even go anywhere, or Cindy Hales or something, black belt, asks me to roll, and I'm already slapping and bumping with Jake, I'll probably go roll with them.
Right.
I'll be, say, I was going to roll with him, but I'll roll with you. And then it's up to them. If they, no, go for it.
Yeah.
I'll get you on the next one.
That's a good point.
So I do like to let them know that, I had this one, but I'll absolutely do it with you. So then they can pick, and then you also get a vibe of like, okay, yeah, come roll with me.
Yeah.
Or, oh, no, go for it.
Yeah.
At our gym, I'm notorious for turning down rolls.
I know you are.
I am notorious for swerving people.
What's the lack of eye contact, too?
A little bit, and then when I say no, it's a lack of eye contact. No, I gotta tape my toes a little bit. So, yeah. In this person's scenario, I would also echo what you said. You're not always gonna get a chance to roll with a black belt,
Right?
because they are. I mean, we're fortunate that we have so many. More so recently too, because Andrew's been open for 10 years now.
Yeah.
So it's natural that he's starting to, every year there's the black belts are getting more and more and more. That's
right.
Kind of just the natural timeline there. But for people that were there 5 years ago, seeing a black belt could be like, oh, wow, there's only a couple that we see, every so often.
Well, and how often does a black belt ask a white belt to roll?
Yeah, that's another thing is, the black belt's kind of reaching out to you a little bit.
Exactly.
Like,
that's kind of my point.
Yeah. So I wouldn't feel pressure as in an etiquette pressure. Like, oh, am I going to get beat up or am I going to like get looked down on if I say no to this black belt? But more than anything, your friend's going to be there.
Exactly.
Maybe just, I'm going to roll this black belt.
I would say take that opportunity.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, but don't, especially at our gym, if you're coming to our gym and you're a member of our gym, don't feel like the etiquette pressure.
Yeah.
Or so have more of an excitement kind of thing to it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, those are kind of the two subjects
okay.
that I was just asked.
I'm going to need the
week.
name of both white belts.
Nope. That is doctor confidentiality.
Oh,
See, I'm gonna pull that one on
your
you.
hippopotamus laws.
My hippopotamus oath.
You know how to spell hippopotamus?
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay. Well, I got a couple questions.
Okay.
From
Peoples
that remain anonymous with my hippopotamus laws.
You're more like a platypus.
A platypus?
Yeah, you are.
Watch your mouth. So we just did a gut episode with Dr. Hardy, and this kind of relates. It's about something called kombucha.
Okay.
You ever heard of it?
Yeah.
Okay. First question is, what is it? What is kombucha? Because I've seen it at the co-op.
Yep.
I see people on Instagram raving about it. Olivia has gone through periods of drinking a lot of it. Mm-hmm. I've tried it, and it tasted like goat urine. What is kombucha?
I don't know what goat urine tastes like.
Yeah.
Stay out of my personal life.
You married him.
I know.
So, Olivia, I'm going to put this one on you. I'll back you up.
Oh, no.
So
no,
what?
No.
Yeah.
No.
What's up, girl?
I don't know this.
What is kombucha?
Tell me what that kombucha is.
Just tell me what it is.
I don't even know. It's fermented something.
Yes. Okay. You're on the right.
But there's
You're on
a
the right.
mother.
Which is the
something.
ferment. Yes, the organism.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just another fermented beverage.
Which just means old.
No.
Aged.
It means you have fermentation, if you remember from our last episode with Carrie, is when a microorganism is taking some type of nutrient in and then creating a waste product.
Okay.
That's fermentation. That is, they're basically eating and having a waste product. So in that case, when you it's like beer, right? You know, the yeast and all that. So what we're doing though is with kombucha though, is you're getting the live, when you drink it, it's a probiotic.
Okay.
Is the simplest way to put it. Instead of taking the pill, the capsule with the organisms in it, you're drinking it. You remember we talked about kefir?
Yeah.
Or you called it kefir
Yeah, that's the correct way.
for rednecks, yeah. That is just fermentation of a dairy beverage. This is fermentation of...
It sounds like fermentation means it's spoiled.
No, it's the opposite.
It's sat on your counter for too long, and now instead of saying it's old, you're saying it's fermented.
No, but people use fermentation to actually preserve things.
Isn't sourdough have
Yes,
fermentation?
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why kimchi, you can bury it in a yard for however long. That's how they make it, right? It's used for preservation because what happens is one of the byproducts of the metabolism of this organism eating, it will lower the pH and make the thing more acid, and it will repress growth of other organisms. So what makes things spoil is bacteria coming in and just basically it's decaying matter, right? And they give a bunch of that's why spoiled stuff smells so bad because that's the off-gassing of the waste products of these other bacteria. But when you have a strain like lactobacillus that is doing the fermentation, it will inhibit growth of other organisms. So basically, when you drink it, you're just getting the lactobacillus or whatever the fermenting organism is. And that's a probiotic. Okay. And you can see some kombucha will have alcohol in there
Yeah.
as a byproduct of the fermentation.
Can you get drunk?
That's probably no, because it's so small. But that's why some of them you can't sell to minors.
Am I relapsing if I drink it?
You know, if you're an alcoholic, you probably shouldn't.
Touche. Olivia, you hear that? Can't drink it no more.
I haven't drinking it a long time, but also
There's nothing wrong.
drink
We're talking
alcohol.
about a tiny amount. But I'm just saying I wouldn't. Yeah, just in general, it's not a good idea. So that's all it is. I mean,
Kombucha is a probiotic, is what you're saying.
that's right. It's a one you can drink.
Kimchi.
Is a probiotic and a prebiotic.
Are they the same?
No.
Probiotic.
So it depends on the organism. Probiotics can be a variety of organisms, right? Lactobacillus is a very common one. I'm just using an example. The difference between kimchi and kombucha is kimchi also has the prebiotic, which is the plant matter that's still there that you're eating to help feed the other organisms that are already in your gut.
Is that the same with that German stuff?
Kefir?
No.
What?
Germans.
Horseradish? Or
Sauerkraut.
sauerkraut?
Yep, exactly. Yep. So sauerkraut is fermented cabbage.
So is that the same as kimchi?
Yep, except for the plant's different and the spices are different.
I was going to say kimchi's more spicy.
Yeah, you add spices to it, and kimchi, you know, they
Darker
typically
in
will have
color.
radishes and different, but it has cabbage in it too.
So is kombucha only effective for hippies, or is there actual health benefits?
Yeah, it's a probiotic. As much as probiotics will have health benefits, kombucha can too.
But I thought with kombucha, it's kind of discouraged because there's a lot of sugar in a lot of the ones in the store.
Of course, you know, but that's like anything else. You know, there's some good food products that they ruin.
Lucky
Yeah.
Charms.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, in its purest form, I mean, it's
Kombucha is good, but
yeah,
buying
of
it from the
course.
store is
well
no bueno.
because we're Americans and we're going to add a ton of sugar to stuff, right? And to make it taste good, and basically you're just getting, you know, you're drinking a sugared probiotic.
What about apple cider vinegar? Does that do anything?
Yeah, but I mean it's a different thing. It's not a ferment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It just has a lower pH. So I mean it
helps with like glucose spikes, yeah?
It can
Depending on the person.
Yeah, and it's not. It's overhyped, I personally think. Yeah.
Well,
Shots
in
fired.
Poppy, the brand Poppy, they say it's a probiotic drink. But the one thing that I see in there that they use, is apple cider vinegar.
Okay.
So are they saying that the apple cider vinegar is a probiotic?
No, they probably have added it in. So fermentation in general will lower the pH. Vinegar is an acid in general, right? Acetic acid is basically vinegar. The byproducts of fermentation will lower pH as well too. What they're probably doing is adding apple cider vinegar to the beverage because it's quote unquote healthy.
But they're calling it a probiotic drink, and that's the only active thing that I can see in there besides
They would have to
all
have
they have
some.
is like cane sugar.
If it's
and
probiotic, they would
sparkling.
have to have some type of organism.
Oh, okay.
By definition.
Maybe there is something else.
Yeah,
in
by
there I haven't
definition,
read
there
the
has to be an
label.
organism in there. Yep.
You're saying pH a lot.
Yep.
When I was a kid, we had a hot tub,
Yep.
and my mom would tell me I have to put in some solutions.
Yep.
Some like chlorine. We had this cool vial thing that had different colors.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like one of them said pH.
One of them did.
Is that the same thing?
Yep. 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 It's parts hydrogen. Basically, it's a way to determine the acidity of something, or the opposite of an acid is a base. So drain cleaner is a base, a very, very hot, heavy base, like pH of like 12 to 14. Our body maintains a pH. Our blood, we have a thing called a blood buffering system. It maintains a pH around 7.4. Pure water has a pH of about 7. It's neutral. So 7 is kind of the neutral, the in between. When you start getting below 7, that is starting to become an acid. And when you go above 7, it's becoming more what we call basic. Okay, and you definitely don't want me to go into the chemistry, but briefly, there's more hydrogen ions down in the acidic portion. That's what makes it acid. And there's more what's called hydroxyl ions, which are OH. We're going to lose everyone if I start going deeper into this. But the bottom line is they're on either spectrum, like stomach acid is well down into the pHs of 1 and 2, super high, super acidic. Apple cider vinegar is probably in the 4s, right? Okay. Something like that. So, and it's on a logarithmic scale too. So, yeah. So
when you start getting the logarithmic,
the whole pH thing.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Well, that's good.
All right.
So that was that question.
Yeah.
So I have an interesting scenario. Maybe we could just run through it quickly.
Okay.
I know a guy, male, that he's in his mid-40s, and his testosterone levels are actually pretty good, I think. They're in the 700s.
Yeah.
He works out regularly, eats well, but oddly, his estrogen is high or slightly high for average. But like you have your average levels, it would be considered a little high. He doesn't take any TRT or anything like that. So his doctor recommended, if you want to get on TRT, we could put you on that.
Why?
Because his estrogen level is a little high.
So before we get to that, more importantly, how's this guy feeling?
So I went through some of the indicators that I know about from my experience in working with
the other Dr. Hardy,
and stuff like that, and he checks out positive on every one of as in a positive way. Okay. Sleep is good. Doesn't struggle with it. Doesn't struggle with fat loss. So when he decides to like start ramping up his cardio and stuff like that, it just melts off him just fine. Libido, stuff like that, good. Doesn't have any issue. The taboo subject, morning wood, still there.
Okay.
Hasn't left him. So there's a few different things that are kind of like normal indicators.
Yeah. So basically, that 700 testosterone is corresponding to pretty good well-being for a guy his age. In other words, he's feeling good.
Yeah.
And then I'm asking, why the heck are we? Because first of all, let me have a disclaimer. Carrie is absolutely the expert in this, but I know enough to kind of get by on this.
You could write a book.
No, hardly.
Oops.
Why? Oh my God. Why would we give him more testosterone? That doesn't make any sense to me because he's feeling good at that level. Now, at that level, if he, like Carrie said in that previous episode, even at that level, if he was still like, hey, I feel kind of, my mood's bad, my sexual drive's down, I'm not sleeping well, you know. Then clinically, that might make sense then. But to add testosterone because his estrogen level is high is crazy to me because, and I'll tell you why. Testosterone can be converted in the bloodstream to estrogen by something in an enzyme called aromatase. Okay, aromatase is elevated, you know, especially the guys have body fat, increased body fat. They'll produce more aromatase. So the testosterone they do have will then be converted. For whatever reason, in this where he needs to look into this more, go see someone like Carrie, a functional medicine doc that can do more, not just check his testosterone-free testosterone, but do a full hormone profile on him. There's some reason why he's converting more testosterone into estrogen, likely so, more aromatase for some reason. Instead of putting this guy on TRT, what he could do if he was worried about it, first of all, I'd look into it. Okay, that would be the first step, to find someone that really will look into it and do a full hormone profile to make sure there's nothing going on in the brain as far as the pituitary function. Who knows? I mean, it really needs to be looked at. But let's say all that's fine. If his aromatase activity is too high, there are some things you can take to kind of inhibit aromatase. So then could bring down his estrogen levels. And the testosterone he has, less of it will be converted into estrogen if he's concerned about that. Things like stinging nettle root, not leaf, but stinging nettle root is an aromatase inhibitor. It's not my area of expertise, but there's a bunch of other things that you can look into that are aromatase inhibitors. That's what I would do if I was worried about that, but not before checking all that out.
Is it something to worry about?
Not real, but it makes you ask questions.
Okay.
So,
can I give you a little background? In his family history, there is a decent amount of prostate cancer. Not just because most men will potentially get prostate cancer, right?
Yeah. The old adage is you don't die from prostate cancer, you die with prostate cancer.
So, but his family history, it's not at like in their 80s.
It's a little earlier.
Yes. Okay. 60s.
Sure.
Type thing. I think maybe even one in their 50s, like an uncle or something like that. Like I said, mid 40s already. So does the estrogen level to testosterone, like in my head, I was trying to connect. I was like, well, let me see. If he's producing a pretty good amount of testosterone still, and then estrogen's a little high, I don't know too much about that. Prostate cancer, are those connected? Potentially,
so
whereas family does well with testosterone to late ages, but then their prostate's taxed or something.
No, so this is a really good question because there was this whole thing about not giving testosterone because it increases the risk of prostate cancer.
That was his worry. That's why he didn't really.
Well, I understand that because the medical community still will not pivot. So that was based on a terrible study done well over, I think it was from the 1940s. Wow. With like a group of 3 men, right? And really it was only done on 2 of them dropped out. It was done on 1 guy. So I know. So, and that was written in a textbook, right? The study that came out. It's a terrible one. Since then, that idea, just like eating cholesterol is going to give you heart disease, that has been ingrained almost in a culture, right?
Oh, yeah.
That the medical community, for the longest time, and still you'll go to a family practice doc and they still don't know.
Yeah.
Will say that, testosterone supplementation will increase the risk of prostate cancer. It's absolutely incorrect. Matter of fact, the recent studies have been done showing no change between development of prostate cancer and whether or not you're supplementing testosterone or replacing testosterone. They've done these studies already. As a matter of fact, there's some indication that having adequate testosterone levels in old age may even be protective. Okay.
Interesting.
This is the problem when you take a concept and simplify it too much, because they're like, oh, the prostate is what we call an androgen sensitive organ. In other words, it is sensitive to hormones, so thus then if we stop the testosterone, in other words, they used to chemically castrate people, right? Basically drop their testosterone to like 50 or something like that because they're worried about prostate cancer. They just made someone super miserable and didn't even decrease their risk of prostate cancer and may even have increased it.
Is this why some doctors won't prescribe testosterone to like an 80-year-old that is doing okay, but he can't sleep?
Some of the recent urologic literature, a matter of fact, I know Carrie's had some older patients in her practice that came to her just because of that exact scenario. And there's some recent literature showing that it is at even people with prostate cancer, it's not a huge worry. Now, you definitely need to monitor those folks, okay? Like for him, if he has that family history, he should be getting like stuff like PSA levels checked, prostate-specific antigen, and things, some of the preventive stuff just to make sure.
Yearly?
Yeah, for him, I would. Honestly, I'll have to look at the latest recommendations on that. I don't want to quote.
But it's like almost like, why not? Like,
yeah, because I would, especially if there's a family history. But that has nothing to do with whether or not supplementing testosterone.
Right,
but in his case, I wouldn't anyway.
Yeah.
Right. I would figure out what the heck's going on. Why is his aromatase high, and why is he making more estrogen? Figure that out first, and then there are some things he could do if everything else is okay. Like I said, some aromatase inhibitors to kind of bring it down to more normal levels.
What would that do? What feeling wise to if someone they're fine testosterone wise, but their estrogen is a little high? So by lowering it, what feelings would you look for?
Lowering what? Estrogen? You probably wouldn't feel much of anything, right? But, the problem is you see a lot of obese men, they have gynecomastia. They start looking like they have breasts.
The man boob thing.
And that's because of high aromatase levels that are converting whatever testosterone they have. They're making a lot more estrogen.
Yeah.
So, I'm always want to know, instead of, this is the problem with modern medicine lately, is that they'll just treat a lab value. It's like, well, why is that there in the first place? Let's dig out to see what's going on there. So they'll treat, whatever, they've been so focused on an organ system and not looking at you as a person. Like, oh, well, this is high. You'll have a cardiologist wanting to do this and then a dermatologist wanting to do something else or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think his endocrinologist or urologist, who I'm not sure what they are, is pretty open to stuff. How he made it sound is like the dude's pretty good.
Yeah, sounds like.
He's going to listen to this, and I'm sure he'll go back and probably chat.
But
look at stuff deeper.
What would, to me, if you are having too much aromatase activity, starting to give you TRT at that point, it's just more testosterone to
turn into.
So it
to burn into some estrogen.
That just doesn't make sense to me at all, especially if he's feeling good. That's like the wrong approach. I'd look at the other piece personally. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting scenario. I thought, one, because he's naturally pretty high for, middle, that age group.
He's doing real well.
Yeah. But he's maintained he doesn't smoke. He, drinks very little, maintained a healthy lifestyle for many years now.
It's important. That's great. It sounds like he's doing well, but that's what I'd recommend.
Okay, cool. Doctor's advice.
Nope.
Just joking. I was just joking.
This is not medical advice.
He plays a doctor on TV only.
Oh my God. No, I'm not giving medical advice on a podcast.
No. Listen to the first 3 minutes again.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all we got today.
Well, that's good, though.
That was pretty quick, I feel. I don't know. Maybe it was an hour?
It was an hour.
How about that?
That's not bad.
Couple jokes. Showed my butt to you once when the camera wasn't on me.
Okay.
You got the straight face. It was good. grapplingwithpodcast@gmail.com, Instagram, Facebook. Follow us. Share it. Why aren't we famous? It's because you haven't shared a podcast to your family
Did
yet.
anyone see us at ADCC?
Did anybody see us? Someone thought I was
Recognize us?
Josh Emmett again.
You should have just gone with it.
I'm going to buy a UFC t-shirt or baseball cap, and then I'm just going to like walk around. And this is what we thought is I'm going to walk around, and then Nikita's going to come up to me and ask for a photo. And then like I'm going to take a photo with him.
That's the worst.
And I'll do like the like MMA guy fists thing. And then we'll just see if we could start something.
Impersonating a UFC fighter.
And then we'll start tagging the guy, and the guy's going to be like, that's not even me.
Hey, Bill, how could that go wrong?
I don't know. I can't think of a single reason.
Oh.
Hit it.
Later.
We out of here.